ask you, was that not beautiful music?
It was beautiful.
I've been waiting for a time to play this here because I heard a composer being interviewed on NPR about 6 months ago. His name is Max Richter, R-I-C-H-T-E-R. And he had composed a 12-hour-long piece of music that was performed starting at midnight in a concert hall, I think somewhere in Europe. And the audience slept. And so he composed this music. So I bought the CD. I bought a portion of it. And if you're interested, it's actually hard to find it from Sleep, meaning it's some music from the album called Sleep. So I think you can buy the whole album called Sleep, Max Richter, or the one I have is from Sleep, and I downloaded it here anyway. Kind of hated to turn it off because it's really beautiful. Anyway, we're really happy to have a visit from Jessica Swiatocha. She's been here, I think, 2 or 3 times, and she's the manager of the Ed and Phyllis Davis Wellness Institute at Southampton Hospital. She has spoken about the heart, she's spoken about exercise. She came several months ago to give this talk about sleep, and we thought it was wonderful, and we had some people who couldn't make it, and we decided to ask her back. So here she is. She's here again. She's a supervisor of the cardiopulmonary rehab department. She earned her bachelor's degree in nursing from the University of Connecticut, where she also obtained her master's degree in nursing as a family nurse practitioner. She's been practicing as a nurse for 16 years, and 12 of those years she's been here at Southampton Hospital. By the way, I didn't acknowledge, but should have, the Southampton Hospital is our wonderful partner in presenting lots of health-related programs. And Karen Wolfrat and all the staff at the hospital are very kind to come over and give talks about subjects of interest. So if you have particular subjects of health interest, let us know. Actually, I won't be here at the end of this. You might make me know, or send me an email. Jessica has always been interested in primary and secondary prevention and in helping patients achieve optimum health in a holistic manner. Her background in cardiac and pulmonary rehab puts emphasis on the importance of exercise, nutrition, stress management, and treating the person as a whole in order to repair the body. She attended the Harvard Mind-Body Health Program and then started the same program at Southampton Hospital for medical symptom reduction, cancer wellness, and heart health. This new and innovative program showed that there was a greater need in the community for wellness programs, and the idea was formed for a wellness institute as part of the Southampton Hospital. Through the generosity of the benefactors, Ed and Phyllis Davis, the hospital has been able to implement their idea of providing integrative wellness services. It's a wonderful community resource. I hope if you haven't taken advantage, you'll take a look and see what they have to offer. We're so happy to have Jessica with us. Please welcome Jessica Swiatocha.
Thank you, Penny. Penny always gives the best introductions. But yes, we are very happy to be partnering with the library. We're always happy to come and give talks. So if you guys do have other ideas, we pretty much have a vast array of people that can come and talk on pretty much anything and everything. So we welcome anybody to ask us to do something. We're happy to work with the community. But tonight, I'm talking about something that a lot of people don't get enough of, and that's sleep. And it was kind of ironic because my daughter woke me up last night having a nightmare at 1:30, and she crawled into bed with us, and she started snoring. And I'm like, oh, I have to get a talk on sleep tonight, and I can't sleep. So what is going on? So anyway, I have to get back to sleep, and I'll play some of my tricks that I use. So we'll get started. All right, so basically, before I get into, somebody's yawning already. It's working. Basically, before we get into the whole factors of not being able to sleep, I just want to go into the basics of why sleep is so important for us, and when we don't sleep, what is going on with our bodies. So without sleep, we're not able to repair. So when our bodies are sleeping in that deep REM sleep, Our bodies are repairing themselves. They're rejuvenating. All of our cells are reworking, and everything is amping up and getting ready for the next day. So it's a necessary thing that we all have to do every night. And the more important thing is chronic sleep deprivation. That's what really can start to have breakdown in the body and cause a problem. So that's really when we want to address if somebody's having an issue, because if it's a chronic issue, then really you're not repairing yourself every night, and that can lead to bigger problems. But just out of a show of hands, who gets less than 6 hours of sleep? Okay, so that's almost half the room. And how about who gets between 7 and 9? Okay, so that's pretty good. Anybody sleep more than 9 hours? Okay, good. Because that's not a good. Oh, good. Yeah, I mean that's too much of a good thing is not always a good thing either. But the National Sleep Foundation and the American Medical Association, they recommend between 7 and 9 hours. If you're younger, like teenagers, they actually need the most sleep. Someone will sleep all day, and then also infants also need a lot of sleep. But I mean, for the adult, an ideal amount is about 7.5 to 8 hours, but between 7 and 9 are good. A lot of people get around 6 hours and function on 6 hours, and that's kind of how the American way is, but it really just isn't enough for the body to really fully repair and heal. So you guys are pretty much around the average of the 6 hours. But what really can happen if you have a chronic sleep deprivation, and I don't have to tell you this, but you get more irritable. I mean, you have a shorter fuse. You don't have the patience that you normally have because your brain has actual cognitive changes that are going on from chronic sleep deprivation. They've done studies on that. You can't really remember as well. You kind of have that brain fog where you're not as fully awake as you feel like you should be. You're kind of going through the motions and you're like, oh, I had a coffee, but it really didn't kick in. It's that cognitive impairment from the chronic sleep deprivation. It's very yawning, which isn't so much of an issue, but it's, can be annoying. Hallucinations, that's more of a rare thing, but other symptoms, just where your attention span is not what it usually is, which can be symptoms of ADHD. It's not that you have it, but that your attention span is just much shorter. And like I said, your patience is just a lot shorter as well. But on a more, chronic medical side of things, you can also have issues with heart disease. You're at higher risk for diabetes. Your heart rate is usually a lot faster, which is not a good thing from a cardiac standpoint either. You can also develop neurological issues with tremors and shaking, and it can also aggravate arthritis. So a lot of people that have chronic arthritis, they're like, oh, it seems to be getting worse. Well, are you sleeping okay at night? And that's a question we will often ask because sometimes it's affected by the weather, but the arthritis can also be significantly affected from a lack of sleep. A lot of other GI issues. We've noticed that when people are trying to lose weight, if they're not able to lose weight, we ask them about their sleeping because when you're not fully repairing yourself at night, that gut health is really compromised. You have higher levels of cortisol, which I'm sure you've seen that in the news about cortisol levels being high in weight loss. So that's another issue. Excuse me. This I thought he was cute, and it was a simpler version of that other one. The immune system, that's another big thing. So, if you find yourself that you're chronically catching these little colds or, just always getting sick, again, it could be all due to your sleep patterns or lack thereof. So that's a big factor on that. It also can affect your appetite. So if you are trying to lose weight, your metabolism is also suppressed. So there's all these little different things that are going on. Eyes being bloodshot, that's not anything new to anybody. Your skin, it's also not rejuvenating at night. Same thing, it's repairing itself at night. So you're going to develop over time more issues with your skin, you're going to have more fine lines, and all that good stuff. So what we're actually doing when we're sleeping at night is we're looking to get to that deep REM sleep, and that actually takes a little bit of time. So when you first fall asleep, you're into stage 1 and 2. That's usually when you're easily awakened, you just have fallen asleep. It's usually within the first 90 minutes of you falling asleep. So that's the first 2 stages of sleep. When you get into stage 3 and 4, it's a deep restful sleep. It's not quite that REM sleep, which is what our bodies need for repairing, but that's still a nice deep sleep, and that's important to get to. You start to kind of go into hibernation mode, and your heart rate slows down. You're not twitching as much and tossing and turning. Excuse me. So that's into stage 3 and 4. But what we really want to ensure that we're doing is we're getting to stage 5 sleep, because that usually occurs between 90 minutes and 2 hours of falling asleep. And you stay in that for about 90 minutes as well. And that is, so if you're waking up every 1 to 2 hours, you're probably not getting that deep REM sleep. So that's just another thing to kind of think about, to make sure that you're getting into that deep reparative sleep. And then the other thing I wanted to mention before we get into the whole idea of sleeping naturally is identify and think about how, what type of sleeper are you? Are you a side sleeper, a stomach sleeper? A fetal sleeper is really the same as a side sleeper or a back sleeper. And there's different benefits to different types of sleeping patterns, but most importantly, to set yourself up for really good sleep, you want to have a good base, so a firm mattress, a good pillow that's supportive of your neck, keeping your body in alignment, so no matter what position you're sleeping in, you're in a good position for your neck and your back. Certain issues, and it's on there, and I can give you a slide or send this slide to you, but more specifically, if you have any back issues, never sleep on your stomach. That's the worst position to be sleeping in if you have any low back issues. Actually, sleeping on your back is the most effective way to prevent further back injuries and neck issues, so that you can be in a better alignment. Side sleeping is the most popular, how most people sleep, and that's really good for a couple of different things from a health standpoint, but it's also the most comfortable for most people. So it's just, kind of a good idea to kind of recognize how you're sleeping and to make sure that you're in a good position with good support. But just kind of setting yourself up for a good night's sleep, it's really important to kind of prepare yourself. I always tell people definitely avoid watching the TV. A lot of people have TVs in their room that they fall asleep to, or they fall asleep on their couch watching TV, and that's just kind of a learned habit of what we've all done. Is, okay, let me put the TV on and relax and fall asleep. It's not necessarily a bad thing for falling asleep, but sometimes what happens is it triggers the brain to start, the subconscious will start working in a different way that it actually will cause you to have waking time, like a couple of, 4 hours into sleep. So that's really why we tell people not to watch TV prior to bed. If it's more relaxing, you can do something like reading or something with low ambient light, not bright light. It's too stimulating for the brain. Exercise right before bed, that's also, again, stimulating for the body. It's not preparing itself for sleep properly. So that can be too stimulating. Excuse me. But on the flip side, doing regular exercise earlier in the day, that actually promotes better sleep for at nighttime. So you're using up that energy, you're getting your body into a regular schedule, and it's going to work a little bit better to help you fall asleep. And I always tell people, as best you can, some people are working and have to do different schedules, but if you can get yourself on a sleep schedule, I always tell people, think about a baby. You try so hard when they're first born to get them onto a sleep schedule. We have to do the same thing for ourselves. If you're trying to go to bed every night around 10 o'clock, and then all of a sudden you're trying to stay up on the weekend until midnight, or vice versa, I don't know, whatever your situation is, it throws your internal clock off, and so it really causes a problem with trying to stay asleep and get into a good pattern. And then the other thing is, with all of our technologies, everybody has their phones next to their bed. They have these bright lights on their clocks, the TV, everything. There's just lights coming from every direction. You really have to kind of analyze your room and say, okay, what are all my light sources in the room besides the natural light from the sun that's coming up at like 5:30 right now. But you really want to have a nice darkened room so that it promotes your body to kind of trigger itself to go to bed. That's why in wintertime when it's getting dark at 4:30, you're like 8 o'clock, like, why do I feel so tired? And it's because your body has that internal clock that's telling you, okay, I need to go to bed. And actually, excuse me, there was just something in the news, I forget if it was the FDA or the American Medical Association, and they were basically saying, okay, before you're allowed to prescribe sleeping aid to a patient, you have to now recommend counseling. I don't know how much the doctors will follow through on that, but most people do just want to get the easy fix, which it does work, but it's not a long-term solution, and it's not meant to be a long-term solution. So I always tell people, before you really, resort to having to take a sleeping pill, there's a lot of other things that you can do. One of them, yoga is great, especially restorative yoga. Restorative yoga is about putting your body in a position that you can better take in deep breaths. It's a very relaxing type of yoga. It's not vigorous at all. You're mostly doing 1 or 2 positions through the whole entire hour. Excuse me, maybe 3 or 4, but you can do it in a half-hour increment where you're doing 2 different positions. It prepares your body for different breathing patterns, for different rest patterns. Meditation is by far the best, because a lot of times our brains are kind of in overdrive, and that's really what's either keeping us from falling asleep or causing us to wake up in the middle of the night and keeping us from falling back to sleep. So just knowing some basic meditation, that really can help then do wonders. And tying into the meditation is also breath work. So, being very aware of your breath, it's a philosophy called mindfulness, which is kind of becoming more and more popular nowadays. But mindfulness and meditation is a big thing to helping you get to sleep. My favorite, because I know my brain's always working in overdrive, and when I wake up in the middle of the night, I'm thinking about 20 zillion different things, and they always seem so much more catastrophic than they really are in the daytime. So what I always tell people to do is keep a journal by your bed so that you're able to write something down, because it really does work, and they've done studies about people that write their thoughts down, however random they are, however silly they might seem, just write them down. And what they notice is the people that would write down in their journal what they were thinking that was keeping them awake were able to fall back to sleep a lot quicker than the people that didn't write things down. So journaling is very helpful. In addition to all of those things, and not using a prescription medication that can be somewhat addicting, there's also a lot of natural sleep aids that you can use. Yes, that's beer. Everybody loves that one. But and I put melatonin at the top because that's really my personal favorite for people, and we'll go through all of these, but I'll explain why all of these are, they're all over the counter. They can be found at your health food store, and we're going to go talk about these a lot more. But these are natural sleep aids. So they are still in, a pill format, most of them. Oh, did you I'll wait for you. So we're going to touch upon all of these. But I put melatonin at the top because that is my favorite and the one that we usually recommend most in the Wellness Institute. Which actually, I'm just going to side note here. I work with Dr. Ponte at the Wellness Institute. He's a functional medicine doctor, and he's really, he's been great. He's a walking encyclopedia of knowledge, really. But he's done a lot of research on functional medicine, which is also called anti-aging medicine. I don't really like that term, but it's all about getting to the root cause of the problem and repairing the body from within. So this, is one of his top favorites, and now it's really one of my top favorites, so I kind of stole it from him. Excuse me. But it is a naturally occurring hormone. It's in our bodies naturally, and what's happening is sometimes, like when we travel, it gets offset. So even if we're not traveling, if we've thrown off our schedule and whatever patterns, this hormone is then affected. So getting ourselves back into our regular sleep rhythm, you can take a supplement and help kind of accentuate and expedite that. So what we recommend with melatonin, and what a lot of people don't know, is that it's very important to not swallow a pill and just let it go through your system, because it's really not going to work that way. How melatonin works naturally in our body, sorry, I don't know why I have a cough also. I'm good, thank you. But the way that melatonin works naturally in our body is it spikes up like about an hour before we're going to bed, and it causes us to get drowsy. And then it will slowly, the level will kind of spike up and then slowly come down as the night wears on. So what's happening is if we're taking a pill in pill format and you're swallowing it through your body, you're getting a nice steady state of melatonin, but that's not really how it's actually being delivered naturally in your body. So what we tell people to do is to take a very small dose of melatonin and you put it under your tongue, so it's absorbed sublingually. And what that occurs is it's able to get into your bloodstream immediately and spikes like a natural, like how it is naturally occurring in your body, and then slowly comes out of your body. So that's the main reason why we always tell people to take it sublingually, and that's the main difference that a lot of people just aren't aware of. Yes?
Can you repeat that slowly? I didn't hear.
Okay.
What you said.
So melatonin, it's very important of how the method that it's taken. So you don't want to take a pill and swallow it and let it go through your system because how it's getting into your bloodstream that way is a very steady state. It's kind of an equal amount and then it kind of peters out. So what we like people to do is to take it and put it under their tongue, which is called sublingual. And so you put it under your tongue and it gets absorbed right into your bloodstream instantaneously. So it causes that same reaction that's naturally occurring in your body. So it causes that spike to shoot up to cause you to get drowsy and then slowly come out of your body. Yes?
Is that pill or capsule?
It's a pill, but it's a dissolvable pill. So it gets absorbed into your,
Okay.
yeah, so it goes right into your system that way.
It's a specific pill that says sublingual.
Yes. I know at Second Nature, I think that one's just a regular pill, but I know I've used it. It's like a powder pill and you can just put it under your tongue. The other thing with melatonin, because it is naturally occurring in your body, you don't want to take too much of it where it can kind of suppress your own naturally occurring melatonin. Some people will use higher dosages because they just find that it works better for them. I say that's okay for a short time, but if you're looking for more of a long-term sleep solution, which is really what we're trying to do, is to kind of make long-term changes and fix things, we usually recommend a very low dose of melatonin, and it's usually like 1 milligram under the tongue. Some people do 3. I know they sell 10 milligrams, but I think those are meant to be given, swallowed and then digested, and then the end result is probably about 1 milligram that's getting into your bloodstream anyway after it's digested. But if you're going to do it sublingually, you definitely have to do a lower dose.
Any contraindications with any medications?
No, not with melatonin. That's a good question. So I would say about a half hour to an hour before that. Probably about a half hour would be enough. I also mentioned vitamin D. And vitamin D is actually like the new wonder vitamin, which is actually also really a hormone. And it helps the sleep cycle regulate. It's also really good for your immune system. It's kind of like the new vitamin that all the doctors are now starting to test blood levels. Usually people in the Northeast are chronically low in vitamin D because we don't live in Florida and we don't get all the sun rays that they get year-round there. So vitamin D is usually deficient in most of people that are fair-skinned and blonde, and women are usually lower in vitamin D than men. So if you're blonde, fair-skinned, and a woman, then you should definitely have your vitamin D checked. And even if you're not, you should still get your vitamin D checked. It is fat-soluble, so this is a vitamin that you would want to take with fat, and it does get stored in your system. Most vitamins, you just can, like vitamin C, you can take, unlimited amounts, and it really doesn't matter because your body's not holding on to it. But with vitamin D, you do have to be careful how much you're taking because it does get stored in your body. Everybody kind of knows vitamin D is really good for your bones. Everybody that has osteoporosis usually ends up on vitamin D of some kind. But besides just bone health, it's really, really important for immunity, for muscle and nervous systems as well. The thing is with vitamin D is if you're going to take the higher doses that do help with sleep, we usually recommend that it's monitored by a doctor because the higher dosage can get to be too high where you need to have your blood work done on a regular basis. I think currently they had upped it. I think they're now recommending 1,000 IUs a day without monitoring. But I mean, some people are doing 50,000 a week to just really get their levels up. So it really depends. But if you're doing anything higher than 1,000, it should be checked. I'm sorry? Okay.
They talking in class.
So vitamin D, calcium, magnesium, they all kind of go together, again, for osteoporosis, but really, again, for sleep and for promoting relaxation. Magnesium is long been known to be kind of a muscle relaxant. So that's really good if you have get twitching at night, restless leg syndrome. Calcium is really good because it promotes, obviously, the strong bones, but it also, with calcium, really promotes good sleep. So taking them together in the evening can really help promote a restful, relaxing sleep that you're not going to be startled awake in the middle of the night. If you can take it twice a day, that's ideal, but if you're only taking it once a day, I would definitely say at night.
most people that take calcium end up taking it twice a day just for absorption purposes. Your body can only absorb 600 milligrams at a time. Magnesium is really good to take with calcium because I know there's been some concerns in the news within the past year with calcium and causing issues with getting calcifications in your arteries and if it's not getting absorbed correctly. So magnesium helps with the absorption of calcium. So that's why we like to pair them together. L-theanine is an amino acid, and I'm sure everybody knows how, has heard about green tea and how beneficial green tea is for you. Well, the main ingredient in green tea is the L-theanine, and if you can get decaffeinated green tea and have that before bed, that would be great. But don't go out and get regular green tea because it does have the caffeine in it, and that will totally negate anything we're trying to do here. So L-theanine increases relaxation. It's really good for boosting that REM sleep that I was talking about. That's really when your body's repairing itself. So helping you stay asleep and stay in that deep sleep, that's important. So this helps you do that as well. So getting good quality green tea, you're really going to get that added benefit of the L-theanine. And also just drinking something warm at night is really relaxing to the body. It helps decrease irritability, and it also is an immune booster. So it's kind of like a trend with all of these things. They all go hand in hand. Valerian, it's a valerian flower, valerian root. That's available in all the health food stores. But the melatonin and the valerian are a really nice combination together. Melatonin is really good at helping you get off to sleep, and valerian is helpful at kind of keeping you asleep for the rest of the night. So those as a combination work really well together. It's from the valerian plant. It improves the quality of deep sleep. So that's the REM sleep cycles, that last stage of sleep, and that's when your body's repairing itself. Really, in that deep state, it's really going to, help keep you in that nice deep sleep. Improves restless leg syndrome. It also helps with anxiety. So a lot of people use it as an anti-anxiety medication as well. I always caution people, is about 10% of people that actually have the opposite effect from valerian, and they actually get really energized from it. So just, try it out on a weekend where you don't have to get up super early because, like I said, it's only like 10%, but it does happen. And it's kind of like Benadryl. I think there's about the same thing with Benadryl is about 10% of people have the opposite effect from that.
And what would you take with valerian?
I would say all of them between an hour to a half hour prior to bed.
That's your dose.
The valerian, yes, to be honest with you, I forget what the dose on the valerian is.
One question I have about that is that I thought the doctor was told my mom exactly what to do. Not the melatonin, but the valerian.
You do, yeah. You do have to double check with them. To be honest with you, a lot of physicians are not they're not completely up. This is the holistic side of things that doctors are not completely aware. So sometimes they'll err on the side of caution and say, I don't know if you should take that. So if they don't know, that's one thing. But if they know there's a contraindication, there's very minimal, certain antiarrhythmics. I know you can't take with it and blood thinners, but other than that, it's pretty much everything. But you really do want to check with your doctor just to be safe.
I wanted to ask if they made a better formula because every time I buy it, it smells, and I just say I can't take this.
I have to say I don't notice a horrible smell. It has an odor, but it's not. Like fish oil has an awful smell. It's not that bad.
It smells like dirty socks.
Well, it's making you appreciate that it's a natural substance.
I'll try it again.
Drink it down real quick with a glass of water, and then it's not, if you dwell on it, then it's definitely going to linger. I guess that's the worst of it, and you can still let it down.
And sleep.
Yeah, and if you're sleeping, dirty socks aren't so bad, I guess. But another great thing that's a lot of times also underutilized is, which I love, is lavender. And if you get a lavender that's an essential oil, that's the real and real good quality essential oil that's not diluted. Essential oils are used in Chinese medicine all the time for a lot of different healing properties. Lavender specifically is a relaxation oil. Peppermint, if you need to wake up in the morning, peppermint's really good for the opposite end, we're sticking with sleep. So lavender works really well. So if you can, invest in some good quality essential oil. You don't need a lot. You can put it on different pressure points by the temples, on the wrist. You can put a little bit on the tip of your nose, but really what you're trying to do is to get your body to relax. So you don't just have to, just put it on the nose area, definitely on the temples. People also get like a lavender eye sachet, and those work really good because it puts a little bit of pressure on the eye, and that pressure can actually kind of stimulate sleep, and it's just a very light pressure. But that pressure on top of the eyes, forcing you to keep them closed, that actually will help with sleep. That's why some people use eye masks. It's not just to make the room dark. The other thing which someone was noticing before is the hops. So, we used to say, oh, have a glass of milk to go to bed. I'm not really a huge proponent of milk anyway, but you can have a beer instead if you get like the hops flour, which is not really easy to find as a supplement, but some people notice, oh, I really, I feel like I'm a lot more relaxed if I just have a beer and go to bed. It's because of the hops in the beer. And the hops flour does have a calming and sedative effect. And they do sell it as a supplement. It's not that easy to find, and it's, there's a lot of other options, but if somebody wanted to try that, that's definitely an option. To be honest, I meant to take the wild leaf glass off of this, but it does have a sedative and calming effect, but again, it's one of those things that are a lot harder to find, so it's not as readily available. The other thing I like to mention, and this is more specific to women, hormonal imbalance is definitely a huge issue with trying to fall asleep for the women. So a lot of these things that are not just about, thank you, are not just about, poor sleep has a lot of underlying hormonal imbalance. And that can be true also for men. So if your hormones are changing, it's probably worth looking into with your doctor about having your levels checked, because if something's drastically off, whether it's your testosterone as a male or your progesterone or your estrogen as a female, you really want to look at what's going on with you internally to see if there's an underlying cause with your hormones. A lot of these symptoms with hormonal imbalances can vary greatly, and especially, women tend to suffer more than men with hormonal changes. So it's definitely something that you'd want to look into. There also, there could be some underlying medical reasons for the reasons that you're not sleeping correctly, and that's also another thing to kind of, again, going back to our Wellness Institute theory of functional medicine and trying to get to the root cause of things. So if you're not sleeping and it's for an underlying medical reason, you really want to treat that reason. And these are some common reasons as to why people have some poor sleep issues. Chronic sinus congestion, because you're obviously not breathing correctly at night. It's really hard to fall asleep, and then your body's going to wake itself up because it's not getting the air that it needs. GI reflux, so like GERD. So when you're having, problems with keeping your food down and you're laying down, if you're constantly having that burning sensation in your chest and the food is not digesting as it should, that's really going to cause a problem with your body trying to stay asleep, because if your body's, trying to do two things at once. Hyperthyroidism, that's another issue for why people have hormonal imbalances causing sleep issues. And then chronic pain, that's a big issue with a lot of people. There's a lot of chronic pain issues. So trying to treat the, like low back, I feel like, I think we're doing a talk on that actually in a couple of weeks, but low back pain is such a common thing that really treating the cause of that so you're able to sleep, or putting yourself in a better sleep position for that chronic pain so that you're able to get more comfortable to sleep. And then also to be aware that certain medications can act as stimulants. So if you're taking, for example, antihistamines for allergies, because we're in allergy season, make sure you're doing so in the morning and not before bedtime, because that could be a simple fix to falling asleep a lot easier. And another main concern that a lot of people have, and this is tends to be more common in men, but can happen in women as well, is sleep apnea, and that's a big issue that a lot of people go undiagnosed with. So that's definitely something. If you have a sleep partner that if they notice that you're snoring or that you kind of gasp for breath at night, that could be two major symptoms, or signs rather, of sleep apnea. So I put up a sidebar about sleep apnea, just to kind of what to watch for. If you're really fatigued during the day and you feel like you didn't get a good night's sleep, but you're like, well, I think I slept for like 8 hours, it could be related to sleep apnea. The other thing with sleep is food and what food you're eating. I don't know if you ever notice, like if you go out and have a big meal late at night, if you go out and have a few cocktails, you know, you might fall asleep great because you're like, oh, I feel so full, I'm just going to relax. Or like after Thanksgiving dinner, you always kind of tend to fall asleep after a big meal. But really, doing stuff like that, like big meals, alcohol, those are actually going to help you fall asleep in the short term. But I don't know if you ever noticed if you've done this, but you know, if you have one too many drinks, you wake up, you know, in the middle of the night and you cannot fall back asleep. And the reason being is due to the alcohol. Same thing with food. If you're having a huge meal and you just feel so full and you just don't want to go anywhere, you fall asleep, no problem. But within a couple hours, you're back awake, and it's just because your body's kind of overloaded with too much work to do. It has to digest everything. The alcohol, you must have like a little bit of a withdrawal thing going on. So what usually we recommend is certain foods to help promote sleep. Certain bedtime snacks. I know I had mentioned the decaffeinated green tea before, but they have done studies on having any type of warm drink is very helpful for going to sleep. It kind of sets the body into a relaxation mode. So any type of warm drink. I know people, you know, the old wives tell us having a warm milk. We don't really like to promote milk. We think, you know, like, go have some warm almond milk. But now even that's in the news of not being so good. So I don't know what you can really drink. But the green tea, we can stick with the green tea. Also, just kind of any type of starch, which again, a lot of people are like, oh, I don't do carbs, I'm gluten-free. I will say that, you know, a small, like 150 calorie snack of some type of starchy material, like starchy food, would be really good for helping your body kind of get to sleep. It's easy to digest, and it kind of just has a soothing quality to it. And I also always tell people to stay away from processed foods because, again, it has all these chemicals that your body doesn't recognize as natural. So it's trying to digest them, and it has to work a lot harder. So again, it's kind of waking your body up to do something when you're trying to prep it for bed. Foods to definitely avoid before bed: fatty foods, sugary foods, and alcohol. Caffeine consumption, and I actually made the mistake of this the other day, probably a couple weeks ago. I had gotten what I thought was a decaf coffee at lunchtime from Starbucks, and I don't know if you guys have ever had Starbucks and how it affects you, but Starbucks is very strong. And I think they must have just given me a regular coffee and didn't realize it. And it was midnight, and I was wide awake. What the heck did I do today? I'm like, why am I so awake? And I thought back and said, oh, I think I had a coffee at around noon. So I know I'm much more sensitive to caffeine. But definitely, even if you're not sensitive to caffeine, nothing after 3 p.m. because it's still going to be in your system. It's still going to keep you awake. Some people are very sensitive where like chocolate will even affect them that way. So chocolate, caffeinated soda, and any type of coffee or tea, you really want to stay away from too much after 3 p.m. Unless you're a real night owl and can sleep in the morning. But adjust it to your sleep schedule. And ideally, and I know this is sometimes hard, but your ideal meal time should be about 3 hours before your bedtime, so it allows for your body to digest. Eating too close to your bedtime really, it interrupts your body's readiness for sleep.
Question.
Yes.
Why the sugary foods?
Well, sugary foods usually come in a processed food format. I mean, some naturally baked foods, but sugar it can be a stimulant, just like alcohol can be a stimulant, just like fat.
Sugars help with serotonin. Serotonin helps with sleep.
Yes, but what happens is, again, like that withdrawal, again, it might help you fall asleep, just like alcohol helps you fall asleep. What happens is then you must have like a little bit of immediate withdrawal that it kind of prompts you to jostle awake, and that you're then have trouble falling back asleep. So none of them are bad for falling asleep, but then staying asleep, which is the main point of getting that deep sleep, that's the problem. And the other thing that I definitely wanted to mention that we talked about briefly before is meditation. And I know Penny had that really nice music playing before, but everybody has, not everybody, but a lot of people have smartphones nowadays. So I just put up some apps that are on the that are available on smartphones for free. And it's, some really great, easy meditations, some relaxation. Some of them have some relaxation music. But just doing something that you can kind of plug in. You can, get like earphone, so it's not into your ear, and put it under your pillow so you can hear the music, and it will shut off on its own. If you have a CD player and you don't have a smartphone, you can get a meditation CD to put in your room and, you know, just trying to help you relax. So just kind of setting yourself up for a good night. And that's a great thing to have at the bedside, so that if you do wake up in the middle of the night, you can kind of just hit play or put it on your phone and kind of just fall back to sleep. And that's that, but I definitely have time for questions. So if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to take questions. Yes.
Go back to the magnesium.
Yes.
Did you say to have it in the evening?
Yes. Definitely do the magnesium in the evening because it relaxes the muscles. It's a smooth muscle relaxant.
And not in the day at all?
You can do it in the daytime. I would caution people to start slow with the magnesium. It's between 200 and 400 milligrams. Start up with a lower dose. It does have, because it's a relaxant, it does have one of the side effects is that it can kind of expedite your GI tract. So, you know, you just want to start slow so that it doesn't cause too much, you know, aggravation with it.
What did you say the dose was?
200 to 400 for the magnesium. And like I said, you just start on the low end and take it in the evening once. And then if you can do it twice a day, you could do the 200 twice a day. Some people do it, I mean, you don't have to do it with calcium, but if you're going to take calcium, I always tell people to take magnesium with calcium just for the protective properties. Calcium is 600. You can't absorb more than that. And then sometimes people take higher doses of calcium because of other reasons, usually bone, and that's usually twice a day. But for sleep purposes, you can just take the calcium and the magnesium at night once a day. Yes?
Where do you get the malaria?
You can buy the valerian at any health food store. So Second Nature, Wild by Nature, online will have it. The other thing that I didn't mention and put in here, but it's very important to note, is that you really have to be careful because supplements are not controlled by the FDA. You can, unfortunately, there's a lot of variability out there. So there's some good companies and some bad companies. I will say the guy at Second Nature in town is very knowledgeable. I'm not plugging him in by any means, but he is really knowledgeable and he really knows a lot and he can guide you in the right direction for a start. Looking online, if you're looking for certain, a higher quality product, you would always want to look for something that has a pharmaceutical grade. If it has that marking on it, that's another good thing to look for supplements. Because if they're not pharmaceutical grade, they should take a sidebar to that. Pharmaceutical grade is probably the gold standard for all supplements, but if they don't have that, it doesn't necessarily mean they're a bad supplement. It's just that they probably just didn't have enough money to do all the testing. But it is a good quality control for the supplement, and I would definitely recommend that. We use a company called Moss Nutrition, and they're really good because they're all pharmaceutical grade products. So if you look online, and that's an online company. But I mean, you can definitely get stuff in line. But I will say that we had a patient that took, they had very low vitamin D, and they were taking vitamin D from I actually won't mention names, but from a well-known chain, and we were testing their vitamin D, and they're like, well, I just bought so much of it, I don't want to waste it. So we're like, okay, see how it goes. We checked it, and it actually went down. With all of I think it was about over a period of 3 months, they were taking like a mega dose of vitamin D. And I'm like, did you really take it? And they did, and they swore they took it, and they said, well, the vitamin that you got is worth throwing away because you're wasting your time. So it is worth, sometimes it is worth investing a little bit more money in a good quality product. So I did want to mention that.
Could you put the food slide up again, please?
Sure. Which one? This one?
That one, yes. I saw the whole wheat toast.
Yeah.
Oh, so that would be the starch idea.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, and
Great, that's
and we don't really, milk has a lot of other side effects that we don't really personally, we don't recommend, but any type of warm almond milk, coconut milk is really good too. Yes.
A couple of weeks ago, there was a piece in the Times about a ice hockey coach who has his team members who have a decent night's sleep.
Mm-hmm.
Drink some sort of cocktail, chamomile, lavender, and chopped cherry juice. Have you ever heard of that?
No, I'm not familiar with, I mean, I've heard of tartary juice for other things, but not
Yeah,
for
yeah,
insomnia.
And they emphasize it.
And chamomile, yeah. Huh. No, I'm not familiar with the tartary. I have to look that up. I have to start reading the Times because everyone was just telling me about 3 different articles in the Times. I'm like, I need to get more time in my day. Is what I need. But
What about chamomile?
yeah, no, that is a natural relaxant as well. So that's really good too. So chamomile tea or green tea, just because it has the L-theanine in it. Either one. So chamomile has a natural relaxant as well. I mean, there's just so many different natural relaxants out there. A lot of them are, what they do is they kind of relax the muscles so they kind of ready your body for sleep. Again, not to rehash it, but that's why I like the melatonin and the valerian combination, because melatonin is really good for getting you to sleep, and valerian can get past the smell. It keeps you asleep pretty well, so that's a great combo. But yeah, the chamomile and green teas are all really good.
When you buy the,
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, Randy.
What about daytime naps?
That's a really good, daytime naps are a great thing in the right amount of time. You don't want to have a daytime mini sleep session. So ideally, a cat nap, so definitely under an hour. 20 minutes would really be ideal as far as a nap goes, but not more than an hour.
In napping, is it logical that you could dream in that state?
Yeah, because usually you dream in stage 1 and 2. But in your deep sleep, you're not dreaming.
In your stage?
Yeah, in the REM sleep, you're actually
So
not.
in stage 1 and 2,
Yeah.
you're dreaming? Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's in the lighter stages.
I thought REM was stage 5.
Yes, so that's when you're not dreaming.
Oh, that's when you're
No, you're not.
not dreaming?
I
No.
think your graphic should say you were dreaming.
Oh,
I think if I.
yeah.
Stage 4.
Oh, yeah. No, it isn't. Yeah. Because a lot of times if you just wake up, I don't know if you ever noticed it, you're like, oh wait, I was just having this really good dream. It's usually in the lighter stages of sleep. So that actually, I'm sorry, I took care of that back.
Can you buy the L-theanine as a supplement?
Yes, you can. Yeah. Some of them are a little bit harder to find. I'm trying to think if I've ever bought a supplement. I know it is available. I'm not sure how, I bet Second Nature probably does have to have everything.
Now I got confused when she said the smell. Is the valerian, it's not a pill then, it's a fluid that gives.
No, it is. Yeah, it is a pill. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
You know what? Let me. Go ahead.
No, I just, there were a couple of things. Actually, Penny wanted me to ask a question just about something called like a second sleep, which I guess in, like a long time ago, people used to, when we just had like no electricity and candles, you would like go to bed and then like you'd end up waking up at like in the middle of the night essentially and getting up and like doing activities and then like even going and visiting neighbors and then like going back to bed. Like it's weird. I mean, I was talking about this with somebody else because I had read about it somewhere completely different. I mean, obviously we don't do, I'm not going to go knock on my neighbor's door like 2 a.m. But like how and I think there are probably many people in the room who like, fall asleep, like wake up at 2 a.m. But then if you get the requisite like 8 hours of sleep, like how disruptive is it? Like, so if you're up, let's say for like a half an hour, but yet you're still getting your sleep, like how, is your body actually repairing or is it a real disruption?
If you're waking every 2 hours, yes, that's a real disruption. But if you were, if you're getting a chunk of sleep for a few hours, and like say you went to bed at 10 and then all of a sudden are waking up at 2, which a lot of people seem to wake up between 2 and 3, then that's still reparative sleep, so that's still good. And if you can fall, a lot of people get up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom and then fall right back to sleep. That's not an issue, that's fine. So that's why people say, I don't like to drink water, I'm going to wake up too many times. Like, if you're waking up once or twice, a lot of people do wake up once, twice, sometimes even 3 times to go to the bathroom. As long as you're getting a chunk of sleep and then you're doing, another set chunk, that's fine. Sometimes I tell people if you're really, that wide awake at 2 a.m., go get up, do something. Maybe go down to the kitchen, get, like a cup of tea, go back to, or beer, and go back to bed. Do something to like kind of reset your clock and then go back to bed. I think, back when they were doing that, if there wasn't electricity and it was getting dark so early, if you were going to bed at 8 o'clock and it's dark for 12 hours sometimes, in the winter. So you don't need 12 hours of sleep. So I can see how they were getting up, doing something, and then going back to sleep. But as long as you're getting that chunk of time for that REM sleep, that's fine.
Thanks.
Go ahead.
The gentleman mentioned something about sleeping in the afternoon.
Yes.
Or a nap.
Yes.
Do you think that if you slept for an hour in the afternoon, that it's going to deter you sleeping well at night, or is it?
That's a really individual, some people are great nappers, and some people it would totally throw off their clock. So it's really highly individual. I always tell people, if it's working for you, then keep doing it, because really ultimate goal is to getting those 7.5 hours of sleep. So if you're getting an extra hour during the day and then 6.5 at night, that's fine. But so a nap is not a bad thing. It's just you don't want to turn it into like those siestas where it's like a 2 or 3 hour thing.
Is there any way to reset the circadian rhythm?
What we like with traveling, because the light change that naturally resets our circadian rhythm, but the melatonin can reset it, and there is like specific programs you can do that where you're taking a higher dosage and then you kind of cut down to like a very low dosage to kind of reset your clock. But even to not do it, make it so complicated, just taking a melatonin at the same time for a week straight, that would be a simplified version, but the melatonin will kind of reset that circadian rhythm. I mean, that's really, if you do end up, resulting to having to take a prescription sleep pill, which are mostly controlled substances, I think all of them are controlled substances, besides like a Tylenol PM or something. That's really the goal. It's for short-term use to kind of reset that circadian rhythm so you get back into a better sleep pattern. It's not really meant to be a long-term thing, which a lot of people end up being on it for. And then they come see us and like, well, how do I get off of this? I don't really want to be on this road. So, just giving them another option. Because it's not that they're a bad thing to have to take, sleep aid. If you're really, sometimes you're going through something in life that's very stressful that you kind of need something to kind of just make your mind shut off at night. And that's fine. I mean, it's all about integrative medicine and doing things in balance. So really resetting that rhythm, a prescription sleeping pill will do that. Melatonin does it really well. Any of these things where you're doing something on a set clock and keeping yourself on a set schedule, that will eventually reset your circadian rhythm.
Does the Wellness Institute offer individualized counseling and sleep therapy?
Not specific to sleep. Yes, you could see Dr. Ponte and he would do a whole intake, but it would be, it would be all encompassing because we would want to kind of look at all the different areas that would be an issue. So it wouldn't, if that was your main concern, we would definitely address it. But it would be more in a holistic manner. So we kind of look at everything. As long as you're willing to look at everything, we'll come see it.
And I was just going to mention, when I was seeing acupuncture, she made a point to say something about getting in bed by 11, like it's 11 o'clock hour. Don't miss that cusp of time, that 11 to 7 was ideal.
Yes, yeah, because again, that's like when your body is. That's true. Some people have kind of tricked their bodies. Like people that are real night owls, I've noticed like a lot of people that are artists, their creative time is in the middle of the night, and they've kind of reset their internal clock to probably not peak between 11 and 7. But for the average person, yes. Your melatonin starts surging, between 10 and 11, and then you're off to bed. So really, even to get in bed before 11. Would be ideal, but you can really kind of adjust that on an individual basis. But for the average person, that works great.
And back to the lighting in the room, darkness being essential.
Yes.
With our children growing up, we always had
Night light, yeah. I know, it's really
not a good habit.
No, yeah, I know. I have one daughter, I have 2 daughters. One of them does not use anything. The other one still, because she's afraid. So, eventually that will happen. But it is better. It's just, especially if you're not a deep sleeper and you're more prone to waking up. The darkened room really just kind of shuts that. It's like a light switch for your body. And that's why like I said, that's why we get more tired when it's darker earlier. It's kind of promotes that.
I read an article about this woman was talking in the last week's Times about sleeping, and she said that you could not absolutely have any lights flickering, and she mentioned all those little red lights that you have in TV and the speakers.
Yeah, if you really like kind of look around the room, if you have a lot of electronics, like in the room, everything is,
Do you
has
think that
lights
it's
attached to it.
valid, but those little red lights?
Oh, yeah, but I mean, it's not just because, I mean, I did read that study on the specifically on the red lights, but it's really any ambient light. We really want to try to make it a completely darkened room and have room darkening shades if possible, because that will really help you, with your sleep. And the alarm clocks, I mean, those are the worst. Those give off a lot of light.
Why are they bad?
Because they're giving you that ambient light that you're trying to get rid of. And most, I mean, otherwise you really can't see them. And you can put it on the dimmest setting, and even that's going to give a little bit of light. But what's happening is you're trying to just make the room completely dark so that if the room's completely black, I mean, you're going to sleep so much better than if you have that, like a night light on in the room. Really just, it triggers it triggers your brain to keep working. It's our body's natural but our natural instinct to kind of wake with light and sleep with dark. That's how our bodies were created. So it's kind of going back to the caveman. No light.
Thank you so much.
Thank you guys so much. We appreciate it.